If everything seems under control, you're not going fast enough. Mario Andretti. Always give your best effort, or you'll never know what might have been. Michael Phelps. There's nowhere you can be that is not where you're meant to be. John Lennon.
Good morning. My name is Layla Ennis, and I'm a sixth form day student from West Simsbury, Connecticut. 25 years and 364 days ago, my parents got married in this chapel about 10 feet from where I stand. Anyone that knows me well knows that I love and admire my parents. However, there was a point around my freshman year where they were the most annoying people in the world and could do absolutely nothing right. I'm sure we all have moments where we cannot stand to be in the same room as our parents, but the majority of our student body gets to leave their families when they come to campus each fall. I was jealous of boarders for being able to live a seemingly independent life, free of their parents pestering them to do the dishes or take out the dog. Not until my brother Merlin graduated with the class of 2017 and moved away to college did I really come to appreciate living with my parents. I realized that with no siblings to spend time with, I had to either hang out with my dog or spend time with my parents. While I love my dog dearly, she cannot talk or provide advice when I need it. Therefore, I turned to my second best option, my parents. I'm glad to say they have now proven to be my most reliable source of advice. Not only do I value the guidance that they have given me, but I also learn from hearing stories of their experiences. As most kids do, I love hearing stories about my parents' lives, but the story of how they met is one of my favorites. As I grow up, this anecdote has taken a deeper meaning regarding the spontaneity, fate, and timing that occurs in life. So, to honor them for 26 years of marriage, I'd like to share my perspective of how they met. Many of you already know my dad as the man who drives the Zamboni during the periods of the varsity hockey games and waves to the crowds and hopes of a cheer. He's been around the Westminster community for the past 37 years and has lived in West Simsbury for the majority of his life. He knows everyone in this town, which means it takes him about an hour to pick up milk from the grocery store. I felt his ties to the town personally because when I say my last name, I get, "Oh, you're Bill's daughter." Needless to say, he's the definition of a small town guy. On the contrary, my mom grew up in Mannheim, Germany, a small city outside Frankfurt. She lived there for 22 years and then moved to a different continent, 3,800 miles from her home and family, to begin her own life in America with my dad. On paper, my parents should have never met, let alone ended up falling in love. Yet despite all odds, they did. Many may call it a mere coincidence, but I don't believe that such an important moment could be written off as such. To make a long story shorter, my mom was an au pair, which is a foreign exchange nanny for a year between high school and university. She had dreams set on going to Australia, but ended up in the United States. My mom moved into a neighborhood in a small town called West Simsbury. Just down the street, my dad was living in his childhood home, not aware that his future wife had moved in 8 houses down from him. You may have noticed by now, I've mentioned West Simsbury multiple times throughout this talk. This is by all means a small, yet crucial detail. Simsbury, commonly referred to as Simsboring, is by no means as boring compared to West Simsbury. West Simsbury has a post office, a school, a fire station, and 2 farms. Being such a tiny town, it's baffling that a German woman could move here and find a soulmate. Stories like my parents aren't hard to come by in major cities such as New York. That's why I find it so significant that my parents met in West Simsbury. The timing and uniqueness of their situation that allowed them to meet indicated a large presence of fate. Though their circumstances were nearly perfect, by the January of her au pair year, my mom was making plans to go back to Germany. The host family she was living with was not a great match, and she no longer wanted to stay in the United States, so far away from her family and home. I must admit, the next part of this story is extremely controversial within my family, but my dad's first real encounter with my mom is when he drove up to her as she was taking a walk around the neighborhood, rolled down the window, and shouted, "Hey, you want to go on a date with me sometime?" She said yes, and then he floored the gas pedal and sped away. When I asked my dad whether he had planned to ask my mom out, he said, "No, I have no clue why I stopped my car." Then I asked my mom why she would say yes to a date with a stranger in a car. And she said, "I knew I could get a free meal and movie." Obviously, this was not love at first sight, but their fates had brought them together, and their spontaneous date would eventually lead to the rest of their lives. Looking at their story now, they had to take a huge risk. Had either of my parents really contemplated the realities of their relationship, I'm sure they would have had more reservation. But my mom ended up finishing her au pair year in America and then moving home to go to university while she and my dad continued to date. This story not only taught me to embrace fate, but showed me that only with exerting effort can you ever get what you want. My parents left all the hardships out of their versions of this story, but I'm sure that navigating a long-distance, intercultural relationship was by no means easy. They went months apart, only being able to correspond via a landline telephone or letters. Then, when my dad went to Germany, he met his future in-laws, who did not know much English, and he knew no German. Obviously, that led to some awkward misunderstanding, most notably not knowing which restroom was the men's room. More seriously, my grandmother pulled my mom aside before she moved to America permanently, and asked, "Why do you want to move so far away? Can't you just stay here?" My mom explained that if she never went to America to try to start a life, she would live with the regret of what if for the rest of her life. Her sacrifice obviously paid off. It is in my admiration of my parents that I realized that fate is only a small part of life. You must sacrifice and put effort into every endeavor in order to find success. As I, in the class of 2019, face our futures outside Westminster, I find comfort in this. Who knows what fate has in store for you? As long as you put your best effort forward in life, your destiny will fulfill itself. So, Mom and Dad, I'd like to thank you both. Firstly, for finding each other, and secondly, for not only making me believe in fate, but also teaching me the value of a good effort. Thank you.